Hello, and welcome tonight. What you're about to witness is a reenactment that happened just a mere 12 hours before the Great Corona Escape. Let's watch. Hey dude, what's going on? How's Baxter? I don't know if you've seen the news today, but things seem to be getting worse. Yeah. It changes every day. I don't know, it's a little tricky given our Portland trip in tomorrow and everything. Yeah, I know. So, don't want to say it, but I think we gotta call it off. I know, it's just... But I think we have to enact Plan B.
Okay. I got it. Meet at my house at 1000 hours, locked and loaded, ready to shoot. Then we make our way up north by car.
I love it. That way we can stay ahead of the virus before it gets us.
Precisely.
You gotta love a good plan. Let me just start off by saying this is some bull. Who does this virus think he is? Or she? It's 2020. Girls can be dicks too, you know. Making us stay indoors when it's beautiful outside? Just to have us take our imaginary pets out for a walk to get some fresh air? Fine, I get it. I live in LA. There's no such thing as fresh air. But that's not the point. Now, don't get me wrong. I love sitting indoors watching, repeat episodes of Gilmore Girls. I mean, where do you think I get my inspiration from? But I enjoy being around people and seeing my friends. This got me depressed, yo. This is my depressed face. I mean, you wouldn't really know it because you probably don't know how truly haunted I am. I should leave that for my therapist. Other than a general pause on life, I'm upset. Jason and I had planned a Portland trip back in 2019. Do you remember 2019? Yeah. Back then. 2019 sucked. But let me tell you what, 2020 is not any better. I would even say 2020 sucks even more. It sucks so much harder. We had this whole trip planned to see the city and some big ass rocks over by the ocean. With the world shutting down around us, we couldn't justify getting on a plane where there was potential cases just to go explore a city. That's how the reboot of Planet of the Apes started. We all know how that played out. So instead, we decided to escape the impending corona in the safety of our own cars, headed up north, where the trees were green and the weather was cold. It was really cold. Jason, you should have told me how cold it was gonna be. I should have brought a parka. I almost froze my fingers off. And let me just say, this was before the social distancing, or we probably would have just stayed home and watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and pretend we were Sean Penn on one of his adventures. Just kidding. No one wishes they were Sean Penn. So, with the new plan, I packed up my 645 and a ton of batteries. That camera, I don't know if you know this, it's a destroyer of batteries. It will just eat them up. I packed my Olympus point and shoot for a backup camera, just in case. My drone, A7S, Super 8 camera. I get it, it's a bit of an overkill, but we're driving, so who cares? So then we hopped into Jason's vehicle and headed up north. We were driving for about an hour or so before we got to our first sweet destination. We were able to find an abandoned gas station / repair house. So we had to jump out of the vehicle, strap in our cameras, and go clap, 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 clap. Ready to rock and roll. So we headed back north. A little bit down the road, we found another cluster of restaurants, so we had to pull over and shoot some more. I love to shoot abandoned buildings. Anytime we were able to hop off the course and shoot an abandoned building, it was just a treat. At this place, I ended up finishing my Ektar roll. So then after that, I put in some portrait. In one of the abandoned buildings, I found this really sexy model. Okay, fine, it's a chair. But the lighting, the way it was set up was just so pristine. I had to just click, click, click. So many photos. It was such a great inspiration. But then the unthinkable happened. I was right in the middle of a shot, which could have probably literally been my best shot ever. And it just died. It gave up harder on life than Saw Gerrera in Solo. Made an electronic sound of whimpering death, failed right into my arms. What?
I heard that.
Don't you f***ing tell me. I'm okay. I'm okay. I promise I'm okay. So there I was with 10 of 120 film and only 3 rolls of 35. This was 2 hours into our trip. Turn back now. This is why you always have a second camera with you. When your first camera decides to die on you. Balls! From that moment on, I knew it was going to be a completely different trip. After all my dreams on what this trip was going to be was flushed completely down the toilet, we ended up getting back in the vehicle and continuing on our journey. Now, as a shell of a man, we ended up getting back in the vehicle and going up north to Lone Pine, our first destination, and escaping this coronavirus. Except now, life is meaningless. Should have just let Corona get me right there. Jason, however, is my rock. He really saved me. He told me life will go on, and then he started singing Celine Dion, if you can believe that or not. So once we got to the town of Lone Pine, we ended up going into Alabama Hills. I loaded up my Olympus, since I guess now that's my main camera, and started shooting some T-Max. I don't know if it was the constant crying in the car, or if Jason really just couldn't handle it anymore, but he let me borrow his Contax T2. Undoubtedly, it has a sharper lens than my Olympus would. Plus, I've never used a Contax T2 before, and so I wasn't gonna turn him down. Load up the Contax T2 with some Portra 400 that I also borrowed from Jason, since I'm an idiot and didn't bring enough 35. And naturally, we pick up some whiskey so that we could kill any coronavirus that snuck down our throats. So then we ended up going back to the hotel room, where we proceeded drinking a lot of whiskey and playing the game Who Has a Bigger Camera, which it's just the two of us in there, so got awkward fast. That balances the shot much.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
So once it ended up getting to about 1 o'clock, we decided, yeah, this would be a great time to commit to waking up for sunrise. We turned out the lights and woke up the next morning to a massive hangover and deep, deep regret of waking up early. But of course, once you get there and once you get the camera out and once the sunset crests over the mountain, it's all worth it, baby. Plus, we got to the continental breakfast early. So there's a plus.
oh my god, yeah. Log in, here's the sunset, sun's coming up. Sun's coming up real fast now. Yeah. I mean, it's gold. It's just pure gold. Kodak gold. Is your body a wonderland, Jason?
Filming the same thing. No.
We got that poop cone! Tasty, tasty. After that nutritious continental breakfast, said no one, we ended up packing up our car and going to Bishop, where we'd spend the next 2 days. So when we got there, we ended up just kind of walking around the town and taking some photos. After walking around town and taking some photos, we decided to hop in the car and, just go to a lake because, well, it was still early in the day and we couldn't check in. So Jason was like, hey, let's hit up Crowley Lake, which is also a name of a demon in Supernatural. Do what you want with that information. We got to Crowley Lake and the wind was howling. We wanted to find this beach just right off the trail. The thing was, our car couldn't make it up the first climb of that hill. Jason looked at me and I knew what he was thinking. Let's hike it. So that's what we ended up doing. So we started on that 2-mile hike towards the mythical beach where rock columns make up the cliff's edge. And boy, let me tell you what, when we got there, I felt exhilarated. I felt like I was in a Star Wars movie. Come across the precipice and saw this massive ocean that the winds were howling and the rocks were smashing against the waves. The view was magnificent. So after we unpacked and let my burning thighs cool off for a moment, we ended up going out for night photography. At this point, I had no choice but to take my digital camera. I couldn't use a point and shoot. There was just no way to control anything. So at first, I tried really hard to treat my digital camera like I would a film camera. It was really hard to do that. The screen is just there, and the review button is just right there, and as much as I tried, trust me, I tried, always ended up just peeking, just a little peek. One thing I love doing is putting a Pro Mist on. I have a Pro Mist. It's a Pro Mist 3. It blooms like a mother. But I love it. So I ended up putting that on for the night photography. But after spending the night walking around the town of Bishop, Jason and I ended up going back and, well, drinking more whiskey. 30 seconds on the clock. 30 seconds on the clock. 30 seconds on the clock. I don't know how many more seconds are on the clock. Maybe 15 seconds on the clock? I don't know.